Hi friends, welcome back to Lana Decor. Today we are diving into tiny corners, narrow shelves, and the smallest nooks to create a vintage winter wonderland in even the tiniest space. Stay with this video to see how a few smart, cozy ideas can turn your small home into the warmest place this season. In this tiny corner, imagine placing a small vintage tray on your coffee table, turning it into the star of your winter decor story. Delicate glass ornaments, a little porcelain deer, and warm fairy lights create a soft glow that instantly feels nostalgic. Around it, a cozy armchair, a simple rug, and a frosty window complete the mood, proving that even the smallest surface can feel magical in winter. Here, the Christmas tree becomes compact and clever, perfectly scaled for a tiny living room or studio apartment. A slim tabletop tree sits inside a weathered wooden crate, dressed with a few muted ornaments and soft lights. This small arrangement fits easily on a side table, leaving the floor open and airy while still delivering that classic, vintage holiday charm. Picture your narrow windowsill transformed into a dreamy winter village, glowing softly against the night sky. Tiny houses, bottle-brush trees, and a sprinkle of faux snow line the edge, lit by a delicate string of warm lights. It is a simple, space-saving idea that feels detailed and cinematic, turning an often forgotten ledge into the coziest view in your tiny home. In a small dining nook, every surface matters, including the back of your chairs. By adding mini wreaths tied with velvet or gingham ribbon, the entire space feels instantly more festive and intentional. This little detail brings vintage cafe charm without taking any extra floor space, perfect for tiny apartments where decor needs to float rather than crowd. On a narrow console or shelf, imagine a quiet row of vintage teacups and saucers, each holding a gentle LED candle. The light flickers through delicate glass and porcelain, reflecting off old books and a lace doily underneath. This tiny arrangement brings a romantic, old-world glow to your space, perfect for small apartments that need atmosphere without large, bulky decor pieces. Along a simple shelf or across a mirror, hang a garland that tells a story rather than just decorating. Black and white family photos, faded winter postcards, and vintage cards clip onto twine, softly curling at the edges. With a few lights or small greenery tucked in, this idea adds memory, character, and charm while using only a thin line of space across your tiny room. Even without a fireplace, a tiny apartment can still enjoy a mantel moment. Use a floating shelf as your base, styling it with mini stockings, brass candlesticks, and a small garland of greenery. Add a framed landscape or vintage print above, and maybe a lantern or heater below, to complete the illusion of a cozy hearth in the smallest living area. In a compact living room, a mirror becomes more than just a functional piece. Wrap a simple evergreen garland and warm fairy lights around the frame, allowing the glow to reflect and double across the room. This trick makes the space feel larger and more luminous while keeping the decor completely off the floor, ideal for tiny spaces that still want big winter atmosphere. Tucked beside a small sofa, a single basket can tell an entire winter story. Fill it with pine cones, birch logs, and a folded wool or faux fur blanket in soft, neutral tones. The textures suggest a rustic cabin while staying neat and contained, adding warmth and depth without cluttering your already limited layout in a tiny home. On a narrow wall, imagine a small shelf styled as a quiet winter still life. Stacked vintage books, amber glass bottles, brass candlesticks, and a few sprigs of evergreen create a soft, neutral palette. This restrained styling feels calm and sophisticated, perfect when you want vintage charm and seasonal mood without bright colors or busy patterns dominating a small room. Even the smallest corner can become a sanctuary when you style it with intention. A compact chair, one plush throw, and a couple of pillows instantly invite you to slow down. Add a tiny side table with a candle, a mug, and a miniature tree, and the whole nook transforms into a Hygge-inspired winter retreat tucked neatly inside a tiny apartment. In a tiny space, minimal decor can be the most powerful. A single evergreen branch, placed in a vintage crock or ceramic vase, becomes a simple, sculptural centerpiece. With just a few ornaments or paper stars, the arrangement feels airy, Nordic, and calm, proving that you do not need a full tree to bring winter magic into a very small room. The kitchen often feels too busy for decor, especially when space is tight. But by using your cupboards, you can add charm without losing function. Paper snowflakes, small ribbons, and retro tins displayed above the cabinets bring a gentle winter mood, keeping counters mostly clear while still tying this tiny, hard-working room into your cozy vintage theme. In a tiny apartment, even the back of a door can become a beautiful moment. Hang a simple swag of greenery tied with ribbon, add a small cluster of brass bells, and let it frame your entry or hallway. Paired with a hanging coat and scarf, this subtle detail brings movement, sound, and nostalgia, without stealing any precious floor space from your small home. A narrow windowsill can feel like its own tiny stage. Line it with vintage glass bottles and jars, each holding a small LED candle that glows like captured winter light. As the evening falls, the glass sparkles softly against the dark window, creating a dreamy, romantic atmosphere that works beautifully in even the smallest living room or studio. Look up to find a new place for decor when floor and shelf space are full. A simple garland and string lights draped along your curtain rod create a beautiful frame for the window. Clip on a few vintage ornaments or cards, and this elevated detail softly glows above your tiny living room, adding layered interest without touching your limited surfaces. In a small living area, books can work double duty as decor and display stands. Stack a few vintage hardcovers on a side table, then use them as pedestals for a bottle brush forest, a brass candle, or a tiny tree. The added height gives your vignette dimension, while the worn spines and pages add charm, all within a compact, carefully styled corner. When the holidays pass but you still want coziness, simply soften your decor. Keep the small tree, garlands, and village houses, but shift to whites, greens, metals, and wood, removing bold red accents. The result is a calm vintage winter scene that feels peaceful and long-lasting, perfect for tiny spaces that need decor to work for more than just a few festive weeks. Thank you so much for spending time here at Lana Decor today. We have seen how simple, vintage-inspired touches, warm textures, and smart styling can make even the smallest rooms feel deeply cozy all winter long. If this video inspired you, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and share your favorite idea in the comments below. Your support means so much.